Hey everybody, I'm Rob Freeman and welcome back to Ensuring the Built Environment. This week we're answering the question, what is an absolute employer's liability exclusion? Well, an absolute employer's liability exclusion is an endorsement on your commercial general liability policy that excludes coverage or reduces the amount of coverage that you have. And that can be problematic if you are a general contractor or you are just doing work on behalf of a client of yours where you're providing that client with indemnification for anything that would arise, problems that would be caused out of your work in the course of doing your work. So let's look at an example. Let's say that you're a large solar EPC and you've agreed to install a large solar system on the roof of a big box store in the 5 boroughs of New York. And in the course of doing that, signing that deal, the big box store requires you to indemnify them and hold them harmless for anything that would arise, any problems that are caused in the course of you doing your installation work. So the project installation starts, and in the course of the work, someone on your staff, one of your employees, is injured on the job, and they are very badly injured. They are in the hospital, and they file a workers' compensation claim. So the employee files the workers' comp claim, and they get paid for their injuries. But in the course of, while they're in the hospital, they also feel that the big box store was somehow negligent and somehow contributed to the injury that they sustained on the job. Perhaps the big box store was not following certain safety protocols. It doesn't really matter, but for some reason the employee believes that the big box store was negligent. So they talk to a lawyer, and the lawyer files a lawsuit against the big box store to also pay for the employee's additional injuries, maybe loss of consortium, maybe the person won't be able to work for a long period of time. And anyway, whatever it is, but the employee feels that the big box store was liable. So they file the lawsuit gets to the big box store. The attorneys for the big box store say, hey, Mr. EPC, you agreed to indemnify us for any injuries that your employee sustained. So here, you take care of this lawsuit now. So typically in your workers' compensation policy, there's also coverage for what's called employer's liability. Employer's liability covers claims that typically fall outside of workers' compensation. Now, the problem is that there is an exclusion within the employer's liability policy, typically for any liability that's assumed in a contract. So you won't find any coverage for your claim there. Now, there may be an opportunity for you to have coverage for this employee claim in your commercial general liability policy. Now, typically, a commercial general liability policy, a CGL, will exclude employers' liability claims. However, there's also a give back or a carve back, typically in commercial general liability policies, that provides a additional coverage, a give back or carve back for liability that is related to employer's liability assumed under a contract. So if you have this coverage within your CGL policy, you could find yourself with coverage there. However, if you have an absolute employer's liability exclusion in your commercial general liability policy, you will find that you have no coverage for this situation where the employee was injured, filed a work comp claim, and then also sued your client who tendered the lawsuit back to you. So in places like New York, where you have strict liability that's imposed on not only the contractor, but also on the building owner, based on New York Labor Law 240 and 241, sometimes referred to as the scaffold law, places like New York have caused insurers to sometimes incorporate absolute employers' liability exclusions into their language in their commercial general liability policies. So again, this can be a problem for you if you are doing work for your clients where you're indemnifying them and the work is something construction related where there could be an injury on the job to your employees. And so you should think about that. Make sure you check your policy language for an absolute employer liability exclusion. Also, it may be referred to as a contractual liability amendment. But there are different languages, different terms that can be used for the same thing within your CGL. So that's it, basically in a nutshell. Please, if you have questions about your commercial general liability insurance, please feel free to schedule an appointment with me at the link below this video. Thanks again. I hope this has been helpful, and have a great day.